Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive, where we cut through the noise and really get into it. Today, we're diving into something pretty fundamental for, well, any successful business. It's about how they respond to their vital signs.
Mhm.
Those key performance indicators, KPIs, but also, and this is key, how they're constantly hunting for new opportunities.
That's right. It's not just about reacting when a number looks bad. It's much more proactive than that. It's strategic. So our mission today really is to explore this whole range of management strategies businesses use, not just to fix problems the KPIs flag up, but also to actively grab new chances for growth, whether that's local or, global.
Yeah, get ready for some, hopefully, aha moments. We'll be looking at how businesses really work, how they adapt, sometimes how they totally reinvent themselves. We're covering a lot like investing in people, using tech for global reach,
hmm
even some maybe surprising ways companies cut costs but still spark innovation.
Exactly. It's all about that dynamic adaptation. You're going to get a pretty quick but comprehensive feel for it all.
All right, let's kick off with the people side of things. Because honestly, isn't a business's greatest asset its people? That seems like the place to start for improvement and new ideas.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And when you talk about people, the first thing that usually comes up is staff training. And training, it's more than just learning the ropes. It's about equipping people, making them more efficient, boosting their skills and knowledge. You can do it on the job, off the job, lots of ways.
And which KPIs does that typically hit?
Well, the obvious ones are things like staff turnover, workplace accidents, even staff complaints or disputes. They all sort of measure employee satisfaction, right?
Right.
But also the rate of productivity growth. That's a big one.
And the benefits go beyond just fixing those numbers.
Oh, definitely. Good training improves job satisfaction, motivation. That leads to higher productivity, fewer errors, less waste, It boosts the quality of the product or service, which helps sales. And importantly, it fosters a culture where people are more open to innovation, maybe taking calculated risks.
And that helps the business's reputation too, I imagine. Attracts good people.
Precisely. It builds that employer brand.
Okay, so training boosts the skills.
Yeah.
But you mentioned motivation. How do you make sure that translates into people actually, you know, wanting to do their best, sustained effort?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? That's staff motivation. It's the drive behind applying that effort consistently. Businesses use a whole toolkit here. Things like performance-related pay, clear career paths, investing in that training we just talked about.
Support teamwork
Exactly. Support teamwork, setting clear goals, all crucial.
and the KPIs for motivation. Productivity again, I guess.
Productivity growth, yes. But also things like the number of customer complaints, happier staff often means happier customers. And then rates of staff absenteeism and turnover. Those are classic signs of low motivation. So the benefits are clear. Better productivity, fewer complaints, people actually showing up, and fewer people leaving. And when you have that highly motivated, committed team, well, that's the engine you need to move into new markets or grow your market share. They're invested.
How do you foster that? Like specific examples?
It could be offering better job security, more recognition, chances for advancement, or even just redesigning jobs to be more interesting, less repetitive.
Okay, so we have training and motivation strategies,
Yeah.
but who's actually implementing these,
Yeah.
making the calls? Does the style of management matter?
Oh, massively. That brings us to changes in management styles or management skills. They're intertwined. Management style is about the manager's general behavior and attitude. Are they autocratic, persuasive, consultative, participative, maybe even laissez-faire? And skills are the abilities they use: communication, delegation, planning, leading, decision-making, interpersonal stuff.
And how does that link back to the KPIs? When would you change style?
Well, think about it. If KPIs like net profit, sales, or market share suddenly tank and you need urgent action,
Right.
a manager might lean towards a more autocratic or persuasive style. More top-down decisions, clear communication, quick action.
Okay. Makes sense in a crisis.
But if the problem is different, say, staff morale is really low, motivation's dropped off.
Then autocratic probably wouldn't help.
Exactly. You'd likely shift towards more consultative or participative styles, use open communication, delegate more, really lean on those interpersonal skills to rebuild trust and engagement.
And the opportunity there.
When you get more employee participation, it boosts engagement and morale. People feel valued, confident, and that confident, engaged workforce, they're the ones who can support moving into new markets, driving growth. They feel part of it.
Right, so the internal focus on people is powerful.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears a bit. What about amplifying that human effort with Well, technology and just smarter operations.
Yes, absolutely critical. Increased investment in technology is often a huge lever, and technology is broad, right?
Mm.
Automated production lines, CAD software, mobile tech, websites, social media, customer databases, even R&D tech.
And the impact on KPIs. Productivity seems like a big one again.
Definitely productivity growth. But also the level of wastage automation can be very precise. Number of workplace accidents, machines doing dangerous jobs. And of course, number of sales and net profit figures.
How does tech cut costs and improve things?
It allows businesses to operate more efficiently, more effectively. That inherently cuts costs and improves productivity. Less waste, safer environment. And think about sales. A good website or online shop strategy directly impacts sales, market share, profit. It can literally take a local business global.
That global reach is huge. You mentioned a stat earlier.
Ah, yes, the KPMG survey from 2022 found that 68.15% of businesses actually invested more in digital tech because of the pandemic, shows how crucial it became. And you see examples like Telstra's smarter business platform technology aimed squarely at boosting productivity for businesses.
Okay, tech opens doors. But as you scale, maybe go global, how do you maintain the actual quality of what you're making or selling? That seems vital.
It is. Improving quality in production is fundamental. Quality is that degree of excellence. Is the product or service fit for purpose? Does it meet or exceed expectations?
And how do businesses manage that?
Various strategies. Quality control is one, checking products at different points, finding and fixing problems. Quality assurance is broader, system-focused. Total quality management, TQM, is even more comprehensive.
KPIs here must be customer complaints.
Customer complaints, absolutely. Also, number of sales quality drives repeat business and reputation. And level of wastage, fewer defects means less waste.
So good quality isn't just nice to have.
Not at all. It tackles complaints head on. It differentiates you from competitors. It helps new products stand out. Ultimately, it can boost sales and market share significantly.
Any examples spring to mind?
Well, think about CSL in the health sector. For them, quality is paramount. It's about patient safety. They embed quality across the whole product lifecycle. They use global policies, local procedures, lots of checks, internal and external audits. It's non-negotiable.
Yeah, you can see why in healthcare. Okay, quality differentiates. But business is business. And it often comes back to the bottom line, doesn't it? When profits are down, the pressure is on to cut costs.
It is. Cost cutting is often one of the first things managers look at. It can be a quick way to respond to profit issues. Every part of a business creates costs. The challenge is balancing those savings with maintaining quality. You don't want to cut costs in a way that hurts the customer experience or the product itself.
Tricky balance.
Very. The goal is usually to reduce costs and maybe pass savings to customers, but without damaging the overall value proposition.
Which KPIs does this hit? Profit, obviously.
Net profit figures, yes. Rate of productivity growth, doing more with less. Level of wastage, and potentially number of sales if you can lower prices without hurting perceived value.
How do companies actually cut costs?
Various ways. Reducing direct costs, like materials, or indirect costs, like admin overhead. Using assets more efficiently. Controlling the supply chain better. Sometimes, unfortunately, it means making people redundant, or outsourcing parts of the process, or finding efficiencies like reducing energy use, maybe through sustainable sources.
You mentioned Telstra before.
Right, they had that public goal to cut costs by $500 million by 2025. That's a huge undertaking requiring very careful strategic cuts.
Wow, $500 million is massive. Staying on efficiency. Sometimes companies feel inefficient not because of specific costs, but just waste in the system, like things taking too long or too much inventory.
Exactly, and that's where initiating lean production techniques comes in. Lean isn't just one thing, it's more like a business-wide philosophy. It's all about improving efficiency and effectiveness by systematically eliminating waste while also improving quality.
Less waste means lower costs.
Right, precisely. By using resources more efficiently, costs naturally come down.
What kind of waste are we talking about?
Lean identifies several types. Things like excess transportation, defects and errors, unnecessary motion by people or machines, overproduction making more than needed, excess inventory sitting around, waiting time between process steps, and overprocessing doing more work than necessary.
Okay, tackling those seems like it would hit a lot of KPIs.
It does. Percentage of market share, number of sales, net profit, rate of productivity growth. Lean helps businesses stay competitive, more responsive to customers. Think continuous production flow, minimal waiting time. It makes a difference.
And making all these operational changes, lean, tech, quality often requires moving things around, doesn't it?
Yeah.
People, equipment.
That's right. That leads us to the strategy of redeployment of resources, natural, labor, and capital resources. Redeployment basically means moving resources from one area of the business to another, aiming for better efficiency.
Can you break down those resource types?
Sure. Natural resources are things like land, water, minerals. Labor is your people, their effort, skills. Capital is the manufactured stuff, plant, equipment, machinery, new tech.
And how does shifting these around help? Which KPIs?
It impacts the level of wastage, rate of productivity growth, and potentially staff turnover, too, especially if you handle labor redeployment well.
How so?
Well, reallocating resources changes how you produce things. Maybe you redeploy employees to different jobs or locations instead of making them redundant. That saves costs and keeps morale up.
Okay.
Or you might relocate a store or factory to a better spot. Or even redeploy certain activities overseas to cut costs or improve productivity. It's about optimizing where your resources are working.
Okay, we've covered a lot on improving internal operations and people. Let's shift again, now looking outward. How do businesses create really significant new paths for growth, especially thinking bigger, maybe globally?
Great question. That really brings innovation into focus. And innovation isn't just about inventing some brand new gadget. It can be creating new goods or services, sure, but also significantly improving existing ones or creating new processes.
So improving how things are done internally can be innovation too.
Absolutely. Streamlining how orders are processed, developing a more innovative workplace culture, using sophisticated IT systems, creating online platforms, that's all innovation. It's not just R&D labs.
Which KPIs does innovation influence? Seems like it could touch almost everything.
It really can. Percentage of market share, net profit, productivity growth, number of sales, level of wastage, even customer complaints and workplace accidents if the innovation improves safety or quality.
So the benefits are pretty broad.
Hugely. Innovation lets businesses adapt to change, find new revenue, boost productivity and growth, and crucially, gain a competitive edge. You mentioned CSL before regarding quality. They're a great example for innovation, too.
How so?
In 2021, they launched a big $95 million Incubator program for Australian medical research startups. They co-funded it with the University of Melbourne and another institute. It's located right near CSL's own R&D. The idea is to help researchers turn their ideas into commercial products, get them to market faster. That's fostering innovation in the whole ecosystem.
That's a really interesting model, not just innovating internally. Okay, staying global. What about just buying materials or components from other countries? Is that common?
Very common. That's global sourcing of inputs. It's about finding the most cost-efficient materials and inputs wherever they might be, often overseas.
What are the main drivers for that? Cost.
Cost is a big one, yes. It can significantly reduce the cost of raw materials or even skilled labor, hitting the net profit figures directly. But there are other benefits. You might get access to resources you just can't find domestically. It's also a way to learn how to operate in new markets, kind of dipping your toe in the water. And sometimes you can benefit from lower taxes or trade tariffs.
Does it improve anything beyond cost?
It can. If you source higher quality components from overseas, that could reduce customer complaints and potentially boost sales or market share.
Are there downsides?
Oh, sure. There are risks. Distance makes logistics harder. Less direct control over suppliers, potential language barriers, currency fluctuations. But often, if managed well, the cost advantages are compelling enough to outweigh those risks.
Okay, so sourcing inputs. What about the next step, actually making the entire product overseas?
Yes, that's overseas manufacture. That's when a business sets up production facilities in a country different from its headquarters.
Why would a company take such a big step?
Lots of potential reasons. It can mean faster delivery to customers in that overseas market. It can drastically reduce production and delivery costs, lower labor, overheads, maybe components are cheaper locally. It can also really boost brand recognition in that region and help you tap into growing markets where maybe there isn't much competition yet.
What about quality control? Does that suffer?
Not necessarily. Often, businesses keep the crucial R&D and design functions back in their home country to maintain control over the core product aspects.
And the KPI impact? Profit again?
Profit, definitely, due to cost reduction, but also potentially market share and sales if it lets you serve a new market better. And customer complaints if the overseas facility can actually produce higher quality or quantity more consistently.
CSL again. Didn't you say they manufacture overseas?
Yes, they have plants in the US, Germany, Switzerland, China, and that Swiss example is fascinating.
Why Switzerland? Isn't that expensive?
It is high labor costs, but they did an 18-month study across 23 countries. They chose Switzerland because, despite the cost, they found the workers were highly productive, taxes were lower, and the government was supportive. It shows it's not always just about the cheapest labor, it's the overall strategic fit.
That's a great insight looking at the whole picture.
Yeah.
Okay, one last global strategy. What about just paying someone else in another country to do part of your work, outsourcing?
Exactly. That's global outsourcing. It means transferring some part of your business operations, could be manufacturing, could be non-core stuff like accounting, IT support, customer service, to an external provider in another country.
Why do that instead of just doing it yourself?
The main idea is that the external provider often specializes in that specific task. They might be able to do it cheaper, or better, or both, than the business could internally. So you get potential cost savings, maybe quality improvements, and access to expertise you don't have in-house.
What kind of things get outsourced?
All sorts. Manufacturing, like we said, but also HR functions, payroll, training, administrative work, IT support, finance and accounting, sales and marketing tasks, even legal processes sometimes.
And the KPIs. Profit, productivity?
Yep, net profit figures from cost savings, rate of productivity growth if the outsourced provider is more efficient, and potentially market share, sales, or customer complaints if the outsourcing leads to better quality or service. It's about leveraging global specialization. So when you pull it all together, you see this diverse toolkit, right? From investing in your own people to leveraging tech to these global strategies. They're all interconnected ways for businesses to respond to their performance data, those KPIs, but also to proactively hunt for new growth. It's a constant balancing act.
So what does this all mean for you listening in? Well, you just got a really quick but hopefully deep look at how businesses are constantly evolving. It's not just about fixing things when they break. It's this continuous process of seeking the next opportunity, adapting dynamically. The business world never really stands still, does it?
It really doesn't. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Think about how these strategies, even though we've discussed them separately, often have ripple effects. One change, say in technology, might impact productivity, costs, and open up global markets. So consider this. Which single change, which strategy we discussed do you think might have the most profound, most far-reaching impact on a business overall, and why? Something to mull over.